Joining us in studio this morning, the prodigal doctor has returned.
That's right.
Dr. Jonathan
How do you
Tripp.
know about my past?
Something about an inheritance, and you put like lamb's wool over your hands. And
A mess of pottage and things. I'm with you. I'm
oh,
with you. That's fun.
8:34. Bill Colley with you on Top Story 2 this morning. And we call this segment Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. And the doctor and I were just talking about how we went from some bad snowstorms in the last, well, in some spots, it was pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden everything is sunny and warm, and it's like somebody flipped a switch. March lasted for 3 months. We flipped a switch, and now it's summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Summer is here. Yesterday was, I guess, 80 degrees. I don't know. I was inside, but it was beautiful outside. And then today we've cooled down. Tomorrow, and then after that, I think Sunday hits in the 80s, and later in the week it'll get almost to 90. So we are in for the sun. It's here.
We're going to talk a little bit, in fact, about summer today because things that people have been putting off or delaying, and maybe sometimes that inactivity as they get ready and go back outside. Number one, they forget certain things. Number two, they've got to get back in some conditions. There's a number of things to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of fun with this. In fact, I'm the prime example how we have a pretty big yard and it's been neglected for a lot of years before we got a hold of the house, and so there's always a ton to do. And we went after it last Friday and Saturday, and of course, you know, what do? We think, well, I'm gonna be out just a little while, and it's pretty cool. It's not too bad. Yeah, there's sun, so what? And so one of the things you forget is sun protection. You
Hmm.
know, it's been cloudy, it's been rainy, it's been snowing. Who needed sun protection? So we've kind of gotten out of habits of doing that, but it's going to hit us hard right now this weekend. Memorial Day weekend is going to be awesome. But the reason for the show today is to say, hey, be prepared. It's here. Even last weekend, I saw lots of sunburns, even on my own staff that know better. Not that I should point out any fingers of my particular nurses, but if I went to touch somebody's shoulder, I watched their shoulder move quicker than I could move.
I have a daughter who's got some Italian and Hungarian ancestry on her mother's side of the family, and she can be out in the sun for hours. Doesn't bother her.
Right?
But you've got me, who's mainly Celtic and German, and I walk out in the sun for 15 minutes, and then I look like a lobster.
Yeah. No, it gets you fast, especially if we have some partly cloudy. That weather often fools us into believing because we don't feel it, but those UV rays are coming right through and hitting hard in the sun. Oh, good. My computer, so my whole outline just disappeared. We'll figure that out. But in any case, the UV rays go right through the clouds and will burn you, and you won't feel it so much. So it's often a worse sunburn because you prolong it.
And it's deep too.
Yeah, no, you have UVA and UVB rays that hit both surface and deeper into the skin. Um, some quick ideas on sunblock are there are some sunblocks that are strictly mineral, and think of it like tinfoil on your skin. It reflects the sun and the UV rays. I like that one in particular because it's really quite easy for it's not one that gets absorbed. There's also chemical sunblocks. About the latest anyway, development in the U.S. is called avobenzone. It is awesome because it stays around for a long time, has great sunblocking capability, but it also causes quite a few people some skin sensitivity. So you have to pay attention to what you're using. But there's several that we've used for years and years that are usually pretty skin friendly. There's one called Cinnamate, if you look at the ingredients, and it is often a skin irritant. So a little bit of, in fact, in my office, because we do cosmetic things, the two cosmetic lines that we have um, sunblocks SPF 40 and 50, one of which is entirely minerals of titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. And then the other includes a micronized zinc oxide, so you don't look pasty white like in the 80s. But it also includes some of the other chemical agents, so it protects the skin deeper down when the UV rays get into the deeper skin, causing really changes in the cells over time. So we do a lot of precancers, a lot of cancers. Excuse me. In fact, yesterday I took off of a gentleman's neck cancer, probably about 2 centimeters long. That it's just obviously skin or sun related, and those are pretty big chunks of skin to take off, and we're trying to avoid that simply by prevention. So whether it's clothes, the sunblock, and don't forget hats. We love a lot of us will say, "Hey, I wear a hat all the time," but if you're wearing a ball cap, you are frying your ears unless you're a nice long-haired somebody. Mostly women avoid the ear troubles because they grow up with long hair, but us guys, we run around in a ball cap, and those ears get pretty beat
Yeah,
up.
sticking out on the sides.
Yep.
We have to take a short break. Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in studio with us until 9 o'clock this morning, and we're talking about some of those hazards you may encounter in summer. We're at 66. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us in studio from Tripp Family Medicine here in Twin Falls, Idaho. We're at 8:42, and of course, the doctor is available to take some of your telephone calls as well. 866. The telephone number is 7360300. Speaking of contacting us, how about contacting you? A number of
Sure.
ways to do that.
In fact, let me give an announcement. Tonight or this afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m., we're doing our semi-annual sports physical afternoon or evening, and it is $25 for a sports physical, which is, shall we say, a mere pittance of a regular wellness exam, but it's almost the equivalent of a regular wellness exam. And all of that money goes back to your sports team. And so if you come in, you pay the $25 and tell us which team, we'll make sure it gets to that team on that school, and that doesn't matter if it's junior high, high school, whatever it is. And that's really been a lot of fun to be involved with that. We were the sponsors of the Magic Valley rugby team, who had an undefeated season and lost the state championship by 4 points, which is a very narrow margin in rugby. So we've had some fun sponsoring some of the teams. So please tell your coaches because they'll tell their players, "Holy cow, we can get money back on this directly to our team." And then come see us. It's a walk-in basis from 3 to 6 p.m. and love to have you there. But our contact is 208 933 4400. That's 208 933 4400. We are located at 1411 Fillmore Street, so we're across from kind of right where the post office entrance is or where DI is. We're straight across from that entrance. And you can find us on the web at trippfamilymedicine.com or on Facebook at Tripp Family Medicine. So don't forget Sports Physical Night because that'll be it's always a lot of fun because there's a lot of action, a lot of motion. Everybody's moving through, and it's everybody's pretty healthy. This is not everybody dying on us. They're just having fun.
We've got a caller. Caller, you're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp at 8:43. Go ahead. Caller, are you with us? No, we might have lost our caller. 7360300. That's 7360300. And we wanted to talk a little bit, too, about people who are outside. It's not just the sunburn that's the threat.
Yeah, it's the actual heat, and we're in a desert, so we got dryness. So dehydration is a big deal. We talk about heat exhaustion or heat stroke, and let me give you three words: water, 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 and did I mention water? The reason I bring that up is because for heat exhaustion or avoiding it, or you're getting too warm and you don't know it, shade, air conditioning are a big deal. Proper clothing, meaning light clothes but covering better parts of your body. Those are big deal. But if I could teach or preach the doctrine of prehydration, meaning drink water before you even get out there, and drink frequently, you'll be amazed at how much you can drink and how little you have to urinate. If you're out working in the sun or playing in the sun, you'll think, man, I've gone through three, liter, not liters, but maybe three half liters or pints of water, and I don't even have to go to the bathroom. That tells you that your body is losing that through breathing or through your skin, and that's your setup for dehydration.
We have a caller with us. Caller, you're next. You're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp on KLIX.
Yes, I've got a question concerning, and hopefully this isn't too far off topic, but what can be done for rosacea symptoms or spider veins, small spider veins on like cheeks, nose?
Well,
This is your specialty, we should
yeah,
point out.
yeah. This is fun stuff for me because although it's you know, bad to have. Considered a cosmetic treatment if we're going after those spider veins, but there are several methods that can be used. The laser is probably the most exciting. I do not have lasers anymore. I've had good experience and bad experience with lasers. The old tried and true is a type of electrocautery, and it sounds terrible, but a few zaps go a long way if you know where to hit the right veins and can clear a nose of a lot of redness or the cheeks. Um, and then there's some topical agents that we have as well that will calm the skin, reduce its overall redness, and part of that is they also cheat. They'll put a little bit of green tint into the topical agent, and that green changes the look of the redness, but only while it's there. But sometimes we use a topical um, antibiotic called metronidazole, and other times there's even using antifungals, kind of like you think of athlete's foot creams that will frequently, after a week or two of use, really reduce the overall redness. But if they're truly because of spider veins, it's getting rid of the spider veins that's the way to fix it.
Okay, is that permanent? I mean, it can be taken care of permanently, or will it
Yeah,
resurface after time?
it is a permanent treatment for those veins that we get rid of. However, if you have a tendency towards creating spider veins, then there will be more that show up later. So no, there's not really a way for me to reverse the genetics or the sun damage that goes along with causing those spider veins.
Okay. Well, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I want to thank him for the telephone call as well. And we're talking not only heat and sunburns, but as well, we need to point out if you haven't done a lot of activity during the colder months,
Yeah.
you may end up over. I can never remember a time when I was a kid and my dad and some of the neighbors, we all had a big neighborhood picnic, and then my dad and some of our dads were playing football with us, touch football, and the next day, all of these old men were just creaking around. They weren't necessarily really old; they were probably late 30s, early 40s,
Yeah,
but
those old guys.
the,
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
day, and of course, I'm thinking they're young today, but the next day they were all sore while all of us, all of we kids, we were just fine. And that was because even though they were hardworking men, they were using muscles they hadn't used in a very long time.
Right. Yeah, the twist and pivot and whatnot. So physical conditioning is a big deal. We hear about weekend warrior or weekend warrior syndrome, and that is just a setup for injuries. And the reason why is because we expect to be able to perform at our peak level, maybe the peak of our life, even though we aren't training or doing anything that would put us at the peak. And so we expect our body to respond to it, and sometimes it says, "I can't do that today." So my message is, don't go full throttle. Try to do moderate activity. If you're going to play softball, play softball. But, don't think you're the old Pete Rose who could, bunt, run, slide, slam into people, and then walk away and the next day do it again. The next day you're not going to do that again. You're going to wish you hadn't done that. In fact, remember if you're in shorts, do not slide trying to steal second base. I did that once and have a scar from it still. So don't slide in shorts. That's not a good idea. So don't go the maximum distance or speed. If you say, what, today's a beautiful day, I think I'm going to go for a run. And let's see, 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago, I used to be able to run 3 miles. I think I can do that. Don't, go a mile or go a half and see how you feel and give it a day and see how that half or full mile took care of you. And don't run at the full speed. We have a saying in our house that actually was given to me by my physician assistant, Jeremy Daly. He calls it's called a WOG, and that is, it's not a run, and it's not really even a jog, but it's not a walk, so it's a cross between a walk and a jog. So we do a WOG, and that's
A
okay to
quick
start with.
paced walk.
Yeah, there's a fake little bit of a jog to it, and I see people doing that all the time that are struggling to lose weight, or they're just doing their part to get better. And I always mentally applaud them as I see that, because they aren't the ultra runner from Runner's Magazine or something like that, but they're out there, they're doing it, and they're doing it at a pace that doesn't hurt them. So start moderately and see if you can push yourself, but don't try to be at your peak on the first day. Let me kind of go back to dehydration for just a minute. That prehydrate idea. If you're feeling thirsty, especially if you're out in the heat already, you're almost too late. You know, you can really make a comeback if you're conscious of it, but if you're dizzy, you're already in trouble, and I mean serious trouble. That's time to get out of the heat, get into cool, get into shade, and just pump yourself full of fluids to the point where you feel like, well, I'm going to be going to the bathroom all the time. That would be just fine because your head, your body, everything's going to feel a lot better if you can cool that temperature and hydrate, and get back up, even if you're a little overhydrated. And people won't believe, how much it takes to really get you hydrated. I'll give you a quick example. Had a lady yesterday in our office. She's had some difficulty with swallowing, some pain, so she's not drinking as much. She complains that she's had some dizziness, and she had some other reasons for dizziness, some ear problems. And I thought, well, maybe that's it. And I said, well, let's just do what are called orthostatic blood pressure and pulse. And she had a dramatic drop in her blood pressure from laying to standing. So when you stand up, it's like taking a tank of water, and it's okay when you're laying down, but when you stand it up, all of a sudden all that water drops to the bottom. Well, that's what's happening with your blood and your blood pressure if you don't have enough volume. So we got to keep the tank full, and that was amazing because just doing that simple set of vitals, we were able to tell her, listen, you're probably about 3 quarts low on fluids. You got a lot to catch up on. So this is not, this is the kind of situation where an IV actually will speed the process. It can be done orally. So for most of you that aren't going to come to my office and say, put an IV in my arm, let's try to keep ahead on the water. So there's my preaching for the day. Start monitoring your physical stuff. Make sure you're well hydrated. Sunblock, cover up. But the bigger message for me is get outside, enjoy that. Being outside is good for you, it's good for your body, your mind, and believe it or not, good for your spirit. So when we talk about mental health, it's actually improved by being outdoors. Outdoor activity. So physical activity is better for mental health, and being outside is better for mental health. So why not be physically active outside and see if mood doesn't improve a lot for you?
You talked about and we're going to see a lot more sports injuries though during the summer because you referenced sliding into second base in your shorts.
Sure.
I remember I was about 23, 24 years old, and I was walking home from work one night, and I passed a park, and there were some people I knew from a church group who were playing softball, and Bill, come on over, we need another player. So I raced over to play, and I had a brand new short sleeve shirt on, and when I was running the base paths, I did a Pete Rose slide because he always did
Yeah.
head first
Yeah.
into second base. And not only did it tear all the buttons off my brand new shirt, but my forearms, were all scraped up from what we used to call brush burns and tiny rocks and the like. And
Yes. Yeah. The little gravel, micro gravel.
I
Yeah.
brushed it off, and I played and finished playing that night, but I had to go home and do a lot of cleanup. Uh, I got out of that with a minor issue, but there are going to be people who obviously sometimes you got to remember the situation you're in, and remember it. Be a little careful sometimes.
Kind of don't let yourself get caught up in the moment because it's not the Super Bowl and it's not the World
Right,
Series. Yeah,
right, yeah.
exactly. No, that's tough because if you have a competitive spirit and you were before and you're not in good shape, you still think, okay, the competitive spirit kind of takes over. So, that's wisdom comes with time and injuries. So try to make it more wisdom and less injury. So,
And that's the thing is you're going to be treating a lot of these people through the summer,
yeah.
and a lot of them are not necessarily going to be kids.
No, no. And, when we talk about sports medicine, we're really talking about uh, athletic or physical medicine. In other words, people that are trying to exercise, trying to do good for themselves. So if you get an injury started, and it's especially not going away within a couple of days, come see us. Let us help, talk you through how to get better with that quicker. A lot of times there's some muscles that are really struggling or damaged and they're trying to recover, and we can help you understand how to avoid beating on them so they have a chance to recover. Sometimes it's as simple as, using ice packs frequently for several days when you thought, well, I'm beyond that initial injury. Why should I use ice? But sometimes it takes more.
I had a friend tell me the other day that she's in nursing, and she said that she has a torn meniscus, and she said this is the second time she did it to the other knee a few years ago, and she needs some surgery done on it. Now, Ben Roethlisberger had that done a few years ago, and he was only out for a couple of weeks. But then Adrian Peterson lost about 10 or 11 weeks. So I guess there's a difference in the degree to which you can tear that?
Yeah, meniscus is like we call it a shock absorber in the knee, and if you think of the ring that goes around like a canning jar on the lid, if you could make that ring thicker at the outer edge and thinner at the inner edge, that's about what the meniscus looks like. And so if you tear that thinner inner part, um, that's an easier repair. If it gets torn all the way out, it's a much more dramatic and longer recovery period. And I don't know all the details of the injuries we you just talked about, but they're often with a meniscal tear. There's some other cartilage damage,
For
and
people who are hiking, though, and doing a lot of outdoor activity, these things are likely more common, right?
they do. I would say it's tough to say what causes a meniscal tear, but a lot of times it's very extremes of the range of motion of the knee. Very deep knee bending with some force or some trauma. Jumping out of a tree or off of a trampoline. Things like that. And I'm not saying trampolines are terrible. I grew up with them. I have one in my backyard. In fact, I even talked to my children lately. I said, I might actually get back on that, and they were encouraging. But I'm one who's tough through a lot of back pain and have been working very hard to make my conditioning better. And I do. I feel better, but I'm not cocky yet because I know better.
Well, we're down to just a few seconds left, but people are also going to get out there and come in contact with a lot of poisonous plants. That may be a topic for another day.
You bet. Yeah, rashes that come from poison ivy, poison oak. They're a lot of fun. Yeah.
I had a friend from Philadelphia, and he was going to the Indy 500 with a group of other friends, and they were driving down Route 80 in Pennsylvania on their way, and he had to go to the bathroom, and
Oh,
so it was
this is a
dark.
this is a bad story
He
already.
ran up into the woods, and then he grabbed some leaves when he was done, only to discover later on that it was poison ivy, and he had to deal with that
Woo.
the whole weekend in Indianapolis.
For probably several weeks. Hey, don't forget our sports physical afternoon and night, 3 to 6 p.m. at Tripp Family Medicine. All the money goes back to your team if you tell us what team.
And there you go. Dr. Jonathan Tripp in studio with us. Better health with Tripp Family Medicine. Remember, life's too short not to feel good. News is on the way at 9 o'clock from Fox, and then one more hour of top story is just ahead.